So welcome back. So in the next part of the lesson, we'll look at HDFS commands. So this is an easy way of interacting with HDFS. So we'll look at commands that are used to move data in and out of HDFS, get detailed information about what files are in HDFS. We'll take a quick look at one of the administrative commands, and you can get a info on the state of HDFS. Now, before we get started on this video, please take your time to spin up your Hadoop instance. If you need help with that, go back to the first module in this course and take a look at how to spin up the quick start VM with the Hadoop instance, because we're going to do some of these in an interactive hands-on. So let's start by opening a terminal window in your quick start VM. And we'll do the simplest thing, list files in HDFS. So and the command is pretty simple. It's HDFS space DFS space -ls and slash, and it's highlighted in green in this slide. And you can see it just lists all the directories in the root directory of Hadoop. So you can see there are directories for HBase and Solar in this case. There's a temp directory and there's a user directory. So simple ls command that looks very much like what you would do in a Linux machine. So next thing we do is let's see if we can make a directory. So again, it's an HDFS DFS command, but with a -make dir option. And we are creating a directory called /user/test. And going back to the quick start VM, you can go ahead and type the command HDFS DFS -mkdir space /user/test, and these slashes are forward slashes. And you can see once you run that command, you end up with the new directory if you do an ls, and it's /user/test, and it should have a timestamp of something that's current because we just created this directory. So next thing we'll do is we'll try and create a local file and then copy it into HDFS. So what we are using to create this local file is a Unix utility dd. It's just going to stream data from a random device into a sample.txt file. And in this command you can see an option bs equals 64 meg. That's basically the size of a block. And then we are doing 16 of these blocks, so you end up with essentially roughly a 1 gigabyte file. So you can go ahead and grab that command in green and run it interactively. So in a terminal. So if we go back to the terminal, we create the file. So you see how the local file gets created. It's about 1.1 gigabytes, as I said. And once that's there, we're going to do copy into HDFS. So the thing to remember is whatever files you're creating in that quick start terminal aren't in HDFS. They're on a local file system on the node. So you have to actively put that into the HDFS file system. So the command to do that is HDFS space DFS space -put space the sample.txt, which is the local file name, and then the HDFS location. Remember, we created the user test directory, so we're going to put it in that directory. And when you do that command and then do a HDFS DFS ls to list the contents of the directory or that file, you'll see essentially that the file has been created. It has the same size as the local file, and the timestamp is current now. One thing I want to point out is circled in red here basically is the one that's sitting right next to the permissions part of the output. That one essentially refers to the replication for the file. Now you might wonder, default replication is supposed to be 3. Why is this set to 1? Well, if you recall, this VM is being spun up on a single node, and we are essentially doing a local Hadoop instance. So you essentially have only one node, so there is no feasibility of replicating this. Now, if this was a real Hadoop cluster with a lot of nodes and with the replication set to 3, that number would show up as 3. So one interesting command is the fsck command which is part of the HDFS script. So if you run this command on a file, you get a lot of detail about the file, whether the file is healthy, the total number of blocks, etc. So take the time to go back to your quick start terminal and run the command HDFS FSCK and the full path to the file. So we've done that here, highlighted in the snapshot, and you can see you get a lot of details. You get the total size, which is consistent with what we put in. Total number of blocks shows up as 8. Remember, it was a 1 GB file roughly, and our block size is 128 megabytes in this VM, so you end up with 8 blocks. And then you have information about replicas and data nodes and racks. So all these things are really nice to know if you're looking at a big cluster to see if things have been put down as you expect. This slide is basically a summary of some of the HDFS user commands. So we saw ls already. You can have disk usage commands. You can move files between directories. You can copy files within HDFS. You can remove files. You can actually put from local, and you can get to local. And you can look at the contents of the file, like using the cat option. You can look at the last 1 kilobyte of an HDFS file if it's changing. So several options, and I haven't listed all of them actually in this slide, but you can see pretty much they look very similar to what you would have on a local file system. It's just that you have to run this through the HDFS script. So the last one I want to look at is an HDFS administrator command, and this actually is something that an administrator can run, and it gives a summary report on the file system. So you can look at the capacity of the file system, the space used, if there are any under replicated blocks. Information from each data node is also included. So if you go run this in your quick start VM, so do HDFS DFS admin -report, you can see in this particular snapshot that the VM had about 54 gigabytes of configured capacity. We can see that there's about 3% usage because we have that 1 gigabyte file in there. We have no under replicated blocks because the replication was set to 1. Now the interesting thing is you get a report from each of the live data nodes. So in this case there's only one data node, so you'll see that information, and then you see details of how much of the capacity on that particular data node is being used. So it's a very nice way to get a report on the status of your HDFS cluster. So this slide concludes this video. So please try out some of these commands. We're going to have references for a more extensive list, and you're welcome to go try them out. And in the next video, we'll see how we can access HDFS via an API instead of using command lines like this. So that will allow you to do programmatic access. Thank you.